So I'm Angelica. I run About Time magazine. We're an online London lifestyle website. We discover everything it's about time you tried in London and beyond. I also run the About Time Academy, where we host live events, panel talks, masterclasses, everything like that in London. We have about 90 writers globally, and we get around 1 million page views a year, about 85,000 users a month. So some stats for you. But I don't really want to talk about me. What I want to talk about is what I've learned from building up that audience and how you can do that as well. The first thing I'd say on content and how content can benefit your business is the content is about connecting to your ethos and to what your company is all about. Your content arm or your content production is really displaying your brand values. So if you're struggling to work out what kind of content you should be putting out there, I think the real question is, what am I all about? What do I believe in? What's my mission? What am I trying to achieve with my company? And that will give you some sense of guidance over what a content strategy looks like for your business. So for us, with About Time, we felt that time was precious and people didn't spend it wisely enough. So what we wanted to do is say, we know what's worth your time. This one thing, or these 5 burgers, or this amazing festival, it's about time you did this. So we were bossy, we were authoritative, but that was our mission and our ethos, and that's helped guide our content strategy. So ask yourself, what motivates me? What am I passionate about? What's unique about the work that I'm doing? And help that guide you. So once you've found your why with your business, you've worked out what it is that you want to be talking about, you need to find your where. So this is, where are you placing this content? What does it look like? Is it blogging? Do you have a blog on your company's website? Is it video content? Is it purely social media? Podcasts are a great avenue to go down. Or is it live events? Can you put on events that are a good display of what your brand is all about, whether that's consumer events or B2B events? So understanding the where. What I'd also say is we now do all of these things. We have a website that we update about 5 times a day. I have 3 podcasts at the moment. We have social media teams. We have a whole events arm. But what we did in the beginning was we picked 1 or 2 and we learned to do them really well. And I did that for 3 years. We just did content. And that was building the brand. I think it can be really tempting when you launch and you're so excited about your business that you just want to do everything. And I'd say pick a couple of things and try and do them quite well for a while. Get that brand recognition there, get people knowing your brand, and then try and go into other stuff. Podcasts in particular are pretty hard to break through now and really get a successful podcast going. So I think building the brand before you launch something like a podcast is probably a good idea. The other thing I'd say is I personally, can you all hear me fine? We're all good? Okay. I personally think that every company can benefit from a content strategy. So even if you're in a more corporate space, I think it can really help you. It might be that you're not updating your Pinterest boards if you're a law firm, fine. But there are definitely avenues for every kind of company. And you can find ones that really work for you and where your users are. So I could talk for like an hour, which is what I normally do, but I'm going to try and quickly give some insights to what helped us grow to 1 million page views a year. First up is regularity. There is no hacking that. So we publish 5 to 8 times a day new features. That's taken a while to scale up to that level, and it's quite easy for us now, but regularity might look different for you. So that might be 2 things that you put out a week, maybe 2 blog posts, or 1 video a week, or something like that, or a podcast a month. What is really important about that is the consistency. It's not really the amount that you're putting out, it's the consistency with which you stick to that plan. That's what builds up your following, people come to expect it. I wouldn't put too much pressure on yourself. Say you want to do a newsletter, you can start with a monthly newsletter, but just make sure you do it for 6 months. That's when you're going to start to see the return on that investment of your time. Understanding your user habits. So by this I mean understanding what your audience is doing and when is the best time to target them. So to give you like an anecdotal example for us, we know that people have big weekends. They go out, they're like, I'm going to hit the town, whatever. They go have loads of half-price margaritas. They have loads of fun with their friends. Then Sunday morning, they're feeling hungover. They go for a big greasy fry-up, or they get a Deliveroo, and they get to Monday morning, they get to their desks and they're like, I feel awful. I feel absolutely rubbish about myself. I need to go to the gym. I need to drink some green juices. And we'll see a spike in searches for London's best reformer Pilates classes, healthy meringue recipes, all that kind of health stuff. Monday, Tuesday does super well. So we can time our content strategy around that because we know what people are going to be feeling like on a Monday. Now you get to Wednesday and people are like, oh, this week is dragging. I just need a gin. So our spike for London's best gin and tonics, happy hours, London's best burgers, all that stuff gets really popular towards Wednesday. And then just towards the end of the week, that just goes up and up. It's about understanding what channels work best for your audience. So I'm talking about age demographics specifically. I'm going to talk to you about that in a second. And then shareability is super important. I'm going to show you that in a couple of slides about how you can get people to share stuff. But firstly, just quickly, what makes content good? Firstly, it has to be really visually appealing. So if you don't have good photos, hire a photographer. If you can't do that, pay for a stock image license, something like that. But make sure the photos are on point. That's the first thing that everyone sees. If I'm honest, lots of people just skim the content. They want to look at the pretty photos. That's fine. Short, snappy. Know your audience, know how long they're willing to spend. So on Google Analytics, you can see how long people are spending on average on your website. Work out how long they're spending, how quickly you can read a piece in that time, and then work backwards. So we know anything over 1,000 words, so that's where we cap it. We know people will read 1,000 words and that's it. So understanding that and that their attention span as well. Other thing that's super important is house style. So can you create a narrative arc for your company that flows through everything? And what I really mean by this is either have one person do all of your content so it all kind of sounds the same, or have a really good house style document so that people have that to refer to and your house style kind of stays consistent. So our language is very personable, it's very friendly, it's accessible, we use a lot of puns, everything like that. And that's our house style that stays consistent throughout the website. So work out what your company sounds like. If you have the budget to make it multimedia, by that I mean adding in video content, some sound clips, stuff like that, great. If you don't, then I'm still a big fan of just classic, some words and a nice photo, that's totally fine. Also, don't be afraid to have personality. Again, I think on the corporate side, we can be scared of what we're meant to sound like, so we kind of diffuse and we get rid of any personality at all. You know, having a bit of personality is really nice, even with kind of corporate blogging. So this is a little example. This is our website. It has a strong visual appeal, very strong headlines. Feel free to take a photo, thank you, at About Time Mag. Short content, snappy, we do loads of listicles, I spend my day writing listicles. We found that that even numbers work better than odd numbers, so give that a try. 7 of the best new workouts to try, whatever it is for you guys. High-res photography, regular columns. By that I mean create content that people expect to see. So we run on Mondays, we run a guide that's like the best new restaurant openings this week. It always goes out on a Monday morning. If you can create a sense of regularity in columns or regular things that you do, people will come to expect that. You'll find you get a bit more engagement. So if it's just like one Instagram post a week that you do, but it's like a review or it's an interview, just try and have that column nature feed into your content. On shareability, what makes content shareable? Basically, I found either short and concise works well or really long form, but the middle doesn't really do very well. So I think pick one side, essentially. Things that get shared are usually because they're emotionally appealing. People tend to share things that are positive. They tend to share things that are inspiring, or there's a story that they really connect with. So try and think of that emotional appeal. The other thing is that sharing is also about community. So some of our most shared articles are our most weird and niche. And I personally think it's because we tapped into communities perhaps without even really knowing it. So, for example, one of our most popular pieces to date is London's Best Korean Barbecue. It's been shared thousands of times. It always gets loads and loads of reads. And I feel like it's because Korean people in London are looking for great places to go to eat Korean food. So we tapped into a community there. We also find that things like the best vegan burgers will do well because the vegan community kind of owns that content. So think about ownership. How can you create something that people get really excited about and they want to share with their community? Also, like relevancy. So can you tag in what you're producing into the news cycle? Can you make it a bit zeitgeist, a bit relevant? So check what's going on in the general news cycle and try and adapt into that. I said list-based. Everyone loves a list. I'm going to talk very quickly about Google Analytics and just really what you're looking for with Google Analytics. I'd like to say that you need to know when your audience is online. So look at the timings for when they're actually engaging with your website. What age, what gender, what are they reading? So what's the things that are landing on the most? Strangely, we found that our team page is one of the most popular on the website, even though it's not an article. So how can you perhaps direct some traffic from those pages that are getting a lot of interest? How long do they stay on there for? Where are they coming from? So we know that loads of our users are mobile, so we'll try and make sure the article looks really good on mobile first. And then what's your most popular stuff? What can you do more of? So just to extrapolate that a little bit, you can see on ours that 25 to 34 is our core. We have a lot more of a female readership. We get a lot of new users. And then, like I said about the Korean barbecue situation, last year, for example, we had 47,500 reads of our Korean barbecue piece. So extrapolating this a little bit more, London's Best Acai, who knows? That's one of our really popular features. Gluten-free afternoon tea was very popular. Healthy food brands. You're seeing a theme here. People who are gluten-free, people who are health conscious, people who are passionate about acai bowls. Those are all little communities in and of themselves. So find those communities. And then obviously things like London's Best Salt Beef Sandwiches, because who doesn't love a salt beef sandwich? But it's all generally pretty healthy, seems to be the high search volume at the moment for us. Which is kind of annoying for me, actually. I hope that I'm not going to offend anyone, but we've had bad experiences with SEO companies. I personally believe that if you can do your own SEO, you should. More than anything, there are parts of your business that are important to understand. And if it's anything content related, it's going to really help you to understand what's going on. If you just outsource to an agency, you're not really going to get a feel for who your audience is. So if you want to do your own SEO, use Google AdWords. You can find out your keywords that are really important. You can make a list of them. You can use a great plugin called Yoast for WordPress, which will help you do your SEO. Collaborating with other people is a great way to do it. So if you have a friend that also runs a company, can you both do backlinks on your website to your sites? And then again, just producing regular content, that's going to really boost your SEO. Finally, just on social media, very quickly. When we talk about social, I think the same stuff kind of applies. I would say focusing on engagement, like we talked about before, that Ryan was talking about, that's really true. So it's actually way more important to get a handful of comments than put out something you've got loads of followers and no one's replying. So nurturing those relationships. I think about it with Instagram. What you really want to be doing is you want to be starting a conversation in the comments. So if you think about it that way, what can you be saying in the caption that prompts conversation? So can you lead with a question? That usually tends to help. Can you lead with a question? Can you perhaps say something a bit controversial? Can you ask people a poll on Instagram stories? How can you drive that conversation? Because these platforms are actually meant to be about communication, not just you talking to your audience, but your audience talking back to you. So driving communication and conversation. Something that's been great for us is taking digital into physical by hosting events. So even if you're putting on free events for people, for consumers or for businesses you work with, it's a much more effective way of talking face-to-face with your audience than just talking on Twitter or on Instagram. So can you host a live event, maybe collaborate with some other brands? It's a really nice, organic and natural way to promote your services. On growth, on social, read the room. And by that I mean, if you're trying to target a particular demographic, figure out if that demographic is on that platform. So you might be doing loads of paid spend on Facebook, but your perfect consumer is on LinkedIn. So actually work out the age demographic, where they're hanging out, go put yourself in those rooms. I think that's super important. Something that wasn't really touched on, but I think with influencer marketing, and I know doing influencer work myself, that we're not always asked what's our demographic. And if your brand is aimed at the over 40s and you're working with an influencer whose main demographic is in like early 20s, then it's a wasted campaign no matter how many comments you get underneath. So ask those quite specific questions about influencers before doing those marketing campaigns. I would pick 3 channels and focus on them. Try not to be on all of them. You don't need to be on like Snapchat and Pinterest and everything. You can pick a couple of them. You can do those ones really well. Focus on the visuals. So by this I mean stick to a filter. Just pick a filter and run with it. Nobody likes a messy Instagram feed. Visco C1, that's our filter. We've always done that filter. You find that people follow you when they look at the whole feed before they go and click on an individual photo. So that first look of what it looks like as a rundown is super important. Yeah, so like I said, Instagram, great for visually led brands. Twitter is great for dialogue and conversation. Facebook's great for viral videos. Pinterest is very, very good for SEO. So I wouldn't overlook it if you're trying to boost the SEO of your firm. Snapchat's good if you're trying to go for more of a younger audience. YouTube also great if you're going for personal brand. You want to do videos about you as a founder. LinkedIn is good for the corporate space and B2B. So they all have benefits, but it's just figuring out which one really works for you and focusing your efforts on a couple of them. Quick social media trends. Ephemeral content is still super popular, so things that disappear, so like Instagram stories and Snapchat. I would say from my personal experience, making your Instagram stories as interactive as possible is better because we're kind of a bit bored of them a little bit. We're seeing these constant reels of Instagram stories and you know what it's like. You can just flick through till you just forever. So can you do some polls? Can you do some questions? Can you add in some music? Try and make them a bit more experiential. Other social media trends is loads of video streaming. That seems to be doing really well still. So maybe doing Instagram lives might work for your brand. Yeah, and then just finally, I just want to say on Instagram stories, we personally found that the highest engagement is 7 to 9 p.m. So that's really when people are on the tube on their phones. Posting between 3 and 4 p.m. doesn't really work. I think that's the bit after lunch where you realise you've done no work today. So that's when you put your phone away. So yeah, that's a bit of a dead zone for us. Research has shown that the first 4 seconds are where you need to make an impact. So focus in on making that bit really good. 94% of users are using their smartphones vertically. So make sure your story is vertical. Geo-tagged Instagram stories get more engagement. Posts with a hashtag also get more engagement, so don't overlook the hashtag even on stories. And then calls to action, so like swipe ups, competitions, polls, do a takeover with someone else, all that stuff, just make it a bit more interesting, essentially. Okay, that's everything I'm going to say for today. I hope that was useful for you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me.